I've done a couple of videos on what kind of logs we should be collecting in our cloud environment. I started off with activity logs, which is by far the most important logs from a detection standpoint. So yeah, definitely grab those. Second video we did, it was about storage account logs. And those are very, very important as well, especially in production environment. And so grabbing those and storing them and keeping them available to you can be really important. I wanted to hit a third set of logs today. And I don't know, I have a weird mixed feelings about these logs. I feel like they're important, but then once you do an investigation, they're not as important as you would think they are. And what I'm talking about is network logs. So I have a couple different kinds of network logs that I can collect. Flow logs network security logs, flow logs, or VPC flow logs is all about the communication between two systems. And it's not the content, but just the information about the communication. What time did it happen? How much data was exchanged? IPs and ports, and that kind of thing. In AWS, I'll get some additional details about maybe the region of the system that was communicating. So if I'm in Ohio, it'll tell me Ohio. But that's basically it. It's just the information about the communication. VPC network mirroring or packet capture is all about grabbing the content of the packet and storing it for your use. This is costly, but it can be significant insight into your to what's going on inside of your environment if you collect those logs. Now, what can I do with the flow logs? We'll talk just flow logs real quick. Maybe I have a system that's identifying bad IP addresses and alerts when somebody that we know that is a bad person is hitting one of our virtual machines. So that might be a good reason to have your flow logs. I can detect a brute force attack with those. That would be also really great. I think the most important thing is if you have an intrusion or a potential intrusion, and you know that there is let's say a system that's been hit, and you want to go and see did that attacker hit any of our other systems, then it would be really great to use the VPC flow logs or the flow logs in order to be able to detect that. Now, there's some problems with this network traffic. First of all, looking at the packet capture, it's super expensive to collect, and you got to store it somewhere. So that's an expense on top of it. It's really more designed for troubleshooting. It's not designed for our back old days where we would grab like all of our packets, store them somewhere, and we analyze them in real time. That's not the intention, although people do. But just think about that cost. Also, if most of your traffic is encrypted, that packet capture is worthless anyways. From our flow logs, one of the problems we have is our IP addresses are always changing, or they should be. If you're in a cloud environment, it should be elastic. Systems are going to come up and down, and you're going to have these things change. And so if I have an attack that happened 6 months ago and I look at the logs and I see an IP address, that IP address has been changed like 6 or 7 times, maybe inside your environment. So it becomes less useful as time goes on. Also, things like brute force attacks, or detecting bad actors that are hitting that note with a known bad IP address. Those are things that are cloud workload protection systems, the guard duties in AWS or the defenders in Azure. They're actually doing that for you. So from a detection standpoint and initial monitoring standpoint, I feel like most of the things you would do with your flow logs is actually already being done in your protection system. So that might be helpful if you're doing something like doing a remediation, looking at the communication and traffic around you. But from detection, maybe not so much. Now, one of the things to think about these flow logs, I would recommend gathering them. They can be helpful, but they could be expensive and not used. So maybe don't put them in your SIEM. Maybe drop them in an S3 bucket or a storage account, and then use one of the cloud tools to analyze the data if you ever need to do an investigation. But if you bring that stuff into your SIEM, it's probably going to be pretty expensive. So maybe you don't want to do that. Well, my name is Sean McCullough. I'm a cloud security engineer with GitHub. I'm also the co-author of Security 541, which is all about cloud threat detection. Thanks for listening.